that you're stuck. And if you don't have that member count that you're looking for to either break even or be profitable, then it's a struggle. It's a tough business model if you don't understand the numbers. You have to know the numbers inside out, and then you have to do your due diligence in the area that you're building out in to see if you're going to get that membership fee that you think you're going to get.
What's going on, everybody? This is Streetwise. I'm your host, Matthew McReynolds, and today is Friday. You already know what it is. Franchise Fridays. There's a lot of different ways that somebody can get into franchising. Here we break some of them down. Hope you enjoy. Get your notepad ready. Let's go. How do you feel about the wellness fitness space in general? Because I've been looking at a lot of wellness concepts. I like fitness. Obviously, I'm all about the fitness, but wellness like infrared sauna, things like that. You got Sweat House. You got Beam.
I spoke with the founders of Beam. So I met her down in Cancun, Mexico. Really nice woman, and really
that whole team seems really nice. I got to meet the CEO of Beam and their fitness one. Is it Rockbox?
Yeah, Rockbox. Yep.
Yeah, I got to meet those teams. I was looking at a area partnership concept. So not being necessarily just a Z, but being able to be like an area partner or a master franchisee. Have you looked at anything like that?
So yeah, I've looked into a little bit of Beam. I mean, very interesting story. The woman's daughter I knew had a Lyme disease, and that's why she got into that concept. And she said since her daughter's been doing red light therapy, they've seen a huge difference already in her ability to do things again. And so it's a very interesting concept. The only thing I can tell you is a lot of these fitness concepts, you have to be very careful on do the numbers work, right? You know, does the numbers work? It's a big investment up front, a big capital investment. You have to recoup pretty quickly. I mean, if you don't recoup that within a year and a half, 2 years, it's tough. The margins have to be there. You have to look at, does it work as running semi-absentee, or are you going to be an owner-operator? Because a lot of these fitness models, you're going to get stuck running as owner-operator, and that's not, if that's not what you're looking to do, then I would tell you, be careful and make sure you really do your due diligence on these fitness concepts, or you will you'll be stuck doing them as owner operator and maybe not making the money you thought you were going to make. So there's some good ones, but then there's some that I would stay far away from. But
it seemed like an attractive concept to me because it all comes down to your membership count. And
correct.
Getting those memberships up as quickly as possible. And so in-home services, it's such a labor-intensive industry where I got to have a lot of techs out doing the work or I'm not getting paid. But with the fitness concept or a wellness concept like Beam, you have, maybe one or two people operating one location at a time, maybe three. And if you've got those memberships, it doesn't matter how many people are coming in a given moment because you're still getting paid on more of a subscription model type thing.
That is correct. You're absolutely right. However, you need to get that membership base up to the number that you're looking to get it to. And if you don't get it there, remember you're paying a lease.
Struggling.
Yeah, you're paying a lease for the build out. Yep. That rent is not cheap depending on where you're at. So I would always be careful on that lease, what it looks like. What does it look like in a year, 2 years, 5 years? Because there's usually increases in that lease that you're stuck. And if you don't have that member count that you're looking for to either break even or be profitable, then it's a struggle. It's a tough business model if you don't understand the numbers. You have to know the numbers inside out. And then you have to do your due diligence in the area that you're building out in to see if you're going to get that membership fee that you think you're going to get. If you think that you're going to get $199 in your area, and then you start calling around and start speaking to a bunch of owners that own a lot of these little fitness boutiques and studios, and they tell you it's a struggle to get $199, you'll be lucky you get $129, $149. Then now you have to work those numbers into it. So I always tell people just they have to understand the numbers. The numbers have to work. At the end of the day, with any franchise, the numbers have to work, or then it's just a hobby. So
yeah.
You
How
know,
do you feel about the master franchisor concept or the area partnership concept where somebody comes in and essentially buys a region and they have, there might be up to 20 or 30 units in a region, but in my understanding of this concept, I get paid whenever new franchisees come in and build units. I get a piece of the franchise fee, and then I also get paid a percentage of royalties
royalties. Yeah.
for ongoing. Have you looked at any concepts like that? Do you have anything
Yeah, I
that's
have. I
interesting to
have.
you?
Again, there's a lot of pros and cons to that, right? I mean, so you buy into an area development and you're responsible for 20, 30 locations. You now have to make sure that you sell those locations and you get somebody to buy into it, or they're just sitting there and So if you feel that the concept or the brand is going to explode and you have a really good brand that you can really sell, then I think it's a great opportunity. But so these are what I see out there: cleaning concepts. I'll see commercial cleaning. They want to do area development, and the reason why they want to do area development is because they can't sell them as fast as they thought they could. So if they know they struggle selling franchises, what's the next best thing? Oh, let me sell 20, 30 units to one person and then let them worry about selling it after that and let them, it's almost
Wow.
like that subcontracting, you're subcontracting out the work. So you have to be careful about that. Now, if you have a really hot brand that is going to sell really well and you can get people to buy into it, then I think it's a no brainer. You just got to make sure the numbers work there also because you're putting a lot of capital up front with these brands. But if you take a cleaning company, right, I think it's a great concept. Everybody's always looking for someone to clean their home or
Sure.
their building. But when you're looking at B2B, you're looking at commercial cleaning. I think it's a little more competitive. I think people already have their contracts and they have those customers already. If you're doing residential cleaning, then I think it's a little easier for barrier to entry to get in. But you buy into a cleaning company for an area development, you now have to be responsible to sell these franchises to a capable owner to buy into a franchise. We had this discussion. I had this discussion with somebody yesterday. It was actually a CFO of a franchise, and he called me just to check in and talk about a few things. And he said, I tell you, I'm struggling with a lot of franchisees right now. I said, well, the reason is because a lot of people should not own their own business. And he says,
Wow. Yeah.
he goes, I totally agree. So we talked about only 5% of this world, 5% of whether it's the US or whatever, should own a business because I mean, it's a lot of hard work. It's a lot of hard work up front. It's a lot of hard work to get to break even or to even get profitable. And a lot of people don't have that mindset and they don't have the willpower and determination and the accountability to get it done. So I always say 95% should not even open up a business. They should go work for somebody. And they can do fine. I mean, they can get a career and move up but only 5% of the world should own a business. And you have to now find that 5% of business owners that are driven out there to sell your franchises to.
Sure. What do you say? I saw this post a few days ago, and I believe it was a franchise consultant, and they were saying that the worst day as a business owner is better than the best possible day as somebody who works for another person. So saying the worst that it could possibly get as a business owner is better than the best that it could possibly get as an employee. What are your organic thoughts around that
I,
statement?
I don't. I think it's in the right frame, but I totally don't agree with it.
Absolutely.
Because you're working for somebody, and granted, listen, there's a lot of great companies to work for, right? And then there's a lot of
Sure.
bad companies to work for.
100%.
There's a lot of bad people to work for. There's a lot of great companies that you can work for. That people, the culture's amazing. They're getting raises every year. They just feel wanted. They feel valuable. Then you have, okay, I'm a business owner, and we crash a van and it's totaled, and now we're out 25, 30,000, $40,000.
Been there,
5
done
years,
that.
you know? 3 people call out sick, and there's nobody to go service properties. Uh, and then on top of that, you get in the mail that you have a lawsuit or someone suing you, or this stuff happens, and and then your insurance just got raised, and your workers' comp just went through the roof. So I would tell you that is a bad day for a business owner, but you should expect those things. Where now, if you're working for
100%.
somebody, it might be a bad day to you. Is you're leaving at 5 o'clock to go home. How bad
You
could it
get
be?
yelled at by, one person, your manager yells at you, but as a business owner, I mean, you might get yelled at by three, four, five customers in a day.
Dealing with call outs, dealing with a truck out of commission, and then dealing with God forbid a lawsuit or
Man,
something. It's tough. So I'm not telling you don't get into business ownership and don't get into franchising, because I 100% agree that there is a lot of people that should get into this. But I'm just telling you that some people shouldn't get into this, and it's not for everybody. But the at the end of the day, it's very rewarding. I mean, if you really put the work in and you really put the
100%.
time in, I mean, I couldn't be where I am in life without franchising. I couldn't be
No
where I
doubt.
am in life without business ownership. It's changed my life, but I was also willing to put the work in. So I was willing to put the time in, the effort, and not give up. 7 days a week. I said we had that conversation yesterday with a CFO. I said the problem is these guys buy into a business and they think they're going to work Monday through Friday and take the weekends off as a business owner, and it doesn't work that way.
Doesn't always work that way.
Yeah, you might have to work a Saturday. You might have to go in on a Sunday morning. You might have to go put yard signs out Sunday morning. You
Sunday
might have,
evening, you're prepping for the week. You thought you were going to get to watch that football game, and you're sitting there doing routing for the next week.
correct. So business comes first. Even if you have a family, you're going to spend time with your family, but you're going to make sure you're spending a lot of time on your business at the same time, because yes, it's rewarding owning a business where you can have that time to maybe go to your son's field day event or to his sporting event. You have that time, but when you get back home, it's back to work. And it's back to work. Maybe it's at 9, 10 o'clock that night. Uh, so people have to understand the balance of owning a business, owning a franchise, and what it's like to go work for somebody. When you go work for someone Monday through Friday, whatever it is, you check out at 5, 6 p.m., you're done. You can check out. It's over. When you own your own business, there's no checking
That
out.
doesn't happen. That
It's,
doesn't
it's,
happen.
you know, I was up this morning at 5 a.m. checking the weather, making sure the weather's good and can we go out. You're up at 5 a.m. If you work for someone, do you need to get up at 5 a.m.? Probably not. Maybe
Yeah,
get up at 7.
I think just reflecting on that, I mean, I've never, when I was an employee for somebody else, I never once, now, no, not once, woke up consistently at 2 a.m. in the morning, stressed out about the livelihood of the organization that I was collecting my paycheck from.
No.
Never once when I was an employee. But as a business owner, there were many seasons of my life where I was waking up 2, 3 o'clock, stressed out about anything and everything, man. I'll never forget walking into my dad's office in 2019. So it was about a year after we purchased our two big territories from Mosquito Joe. And the previous owner, my dad puts a piece of paper right in front of me and was like, "You ready for your day to be ruined?" And the previous owner was suing us because he wanted his money and he wanted it faster than whatever the prearranged terms were. And oh my gosh, in that moment, now I had a good relationship with this guy and I was hurt, but through conversations, he it's such a funny thing now, but he told me on the phone like, "Hey man, you're an entrepreneur. You're not a real business owner until the first time you've been sued. So congratulations, you just leveled up a little bit." And I laughed at the time, and we made it through it. But yeah, there's just a higher level of experience and growth and obstacles that you'll never understand unless you are actually doing it and you're in this life. But you're right, man. It is so rewarding, and it's got to be one of the most rewarding things I've ever done outside of being married, having kids, and building up a family. I mean, it's kind of all entwined.
I agree. I mean, I wouldn't do anything different than what I'm doing now. I enjoy it. Yes, there's every day there's problems. Every day there's issues. At any minute I can get a phone call from my general manager and say, "Hey, I got to talk to you." And when I get that phone call, I'm like, "Oh boy, what's this about?" Sometimes it's actually good. It's positive. But my
Doesn't
general
matter when he
manager,
says it though. Yep, it's like, oh
I don't
man,
know.
what
Every
did
time
he
I
do?
see his name come across my phone, I'm like, "Oh boy, what's going on?" Because he's not going to call me for anything that he can't handle, and he can pretty much
Right.
handle everything. He's capable of making any decision that I can make, which is why he's in position for me. But when I see his name come across my phone, I'm like, "Oh boy!"
Like,
And
what could it
sometimes
be?
it's great because he gets me on the phone. He's like, "Hey, I just need you to send over the July statement so I can do QuickBooks." I'm like, "Oh."
Phew!
Whew. I'm like, that's all you're calling for? He's like, yeah, that's all. I'm like, all
Praise the
right.
Lord.
Couldn't you text me? so, so sometimes it's just or a check in, and but he will not call me unless he needs something.
Yeah,
He usually can handle everything, and that's when we talk about franchising. Manage the manager.
sure.
We talked about E Myth, right? The book E Myth. We
Yep.
talked about when you can build a team and when you can build a franchise that can actually be sustainable within itself, that's when it gets fun. That's when it's fun where
Oh man,
you
there's
know
nothing like it.
where you and I can talk right now, and we're still running a business at the same time.
Got trucks out in the field, got people
Yeah,
answering the phones, got emails being sent, transactions are happening, and we're able to do stuff like this. Plan on going to have lunch with my wife later
yeah.
today, and it's just a beautiful thing. But it does take a lot of work and a lot of time.
Takes
Last
a lot of
time,
work, a lot of time, and it also this is where we come in and we talk about, and we're going to discuss this more in upcoming episodes, is picking the right franchise, picking
mm,
the one
okay,
and selecting the right franchise that works for you, works for your family, but also works for your financial goals. So if you could select the right franchise that's going to hit all of those, it's going to work with you, with your skill set. It's going to work with your skill set. It's going to work with your family because everyone's in a different position with their family. Some people, some people don't have a family. Some people it's just themselves, and they're able
right.
to, and then other people are like, oh no, I have three kids, and I like to go to their sporting events. I like to coach. I like to be involved. So we find something that fits that. Then we look at financial goals. What are your financial goals? Are you looking to make 50,000 a year? Are you looking to make 100,000? Are you looking to build an empire? Are you looking? Hey, I need something that I want to build up to where I'm making $500,000 a year. I'm bringing home $500,000. Okay, so we could talk about that. We could talk about franchises that we can build to that empire level. And then you got people that listen. I need to bring home $1 million a year. What do you have? I'm like, all right. Well, there's a lot of different ways to go with that. We either start with one and we buy out multiple territories, or we're going to invest in a larger franchise that you can get that that reward pretty quick, and you're able to get that income pretty quickly. So there's so many options out there, and like I said, we had this discussion yesterday. It's funny that there's a lot of bad franchises out there, and then there's a lot of good ones out there. And I just try to help people steer away from the ones that are going to be. It's going to take up a lot of their time. I look at some people want to be an owner operator, right? I have a friend of mine. A friend of mine actually runs a fitness boutique franchise. It's a boutique fitness franchise. Really good friend of mine. I got to reach out to him. I haven't talked to him in a while. And he's an owner operator, and I'm trying to get him because he's like, I want to expand. I want to do more. And I'm trying to get his mindset like, okay, you got to kind of let go, release yourself, and replace yourself eventually here because you're doing well now. Now you can start to peel yourself back. But he's been an owner operator now for 3.5 years, and he's doing well. He's doing good, and he loves it. He loves every minute of it. But it consumes his life from 3 a.m. in the morning because he gets up that early, all the way to like 5, 6 o'clock in the afternoon, and then he's able to hand off in the evening a little. But so he's tied into his business probably 50, 60 hours a week, if not more. And he does a great job. He's doing very well, but I think he wants more. He wants to expand. He wants to add more to his portfolio. He wants to kind of get out of the rat race a little. Because did he buy himself a job, or is he really just a glorified owner? And
No, that's good, man. I wonder because I've seen this in my own personal experience and those around me, but and a lot of kind of seems to be a trend. How much of that do you think is him having an identity in that role where he might have, goals outside of that, but because he so closely identifies with, oh, I get up at 3 o'clock, I open this thing up. And especially fitness concepts, you're usually a little more passionate about what you're doing every day. So I could totally see his passion and his identity maybe even getting in the way of him expanding and scaling the way that he says he wants to.
I think you're right on. I think you are
Okay.
like you hit the nail on the head. He is passionate about what
Yeah.
he does.
Gotta be if you're in fitness, man. You gotta
He
love
loves
it.
he loves fitness. He's passionate
Totally
about
relate.
it.
Yeah.
He trains like an animal. He's
I
50
bet he
something.
does.
He's 50 something years old, and
Okay.
sure he's probably about 5% body fat, and it's very impressive at his age. And I look at him, and this is why I get along great with him. I'm like, wow, look at the shape this guy keeps himself in. But I'm trying to help him with his mindset. Like, we got to get you removed from here. We got to get you a little bit removed from your business so you could do other things. And he's always like, how do you have time to do everything? Like, how do you run 5 businesses and do consulting and do? I said, because I have people in place that I trust, that I empower, and I don't let that get in my way. That whole passion. Yeah, I'm passionate about my businesses, but I'm more passionate about doing things that I enjoy and have that financial freedom. Have that freedom to go to breakfast or go to lunch with my wife or go golfing with my son once in a while, or do those things. But we got to get him there, and we got to get. That's where I help people find the right franchise, identify what's working out there, what's not working with a semi-absentee. Is there such thing as 100% passive absentee? I don't believe it exists. There is a few concepts that we're working with right now that are 100% passive, investor model only. So there's a few brands I'm working with right now that you're basically going to give the capital to get it up and running, and it's going to require 4 or 5 hours a month. That's it, and they're going to actually run the business for you. You're going to pay additional royalties. And I get a lot of investors that call me and they say, hey, you know what? That sounds great. Walk me through this. And then I will. I'll walk them through it. But it's not for everybody, because I still believe the best way to build your business is you need to be in it in the beginning and really experience what it's all about from the ground up. And then you can start to remove yourself a little at a time, and let go of some of those day-to-day tasks and day-to-day operations.
No, that's a lot to think about, especially, there's so many, and that's why I see such value in bringing on a consultant because people come from so many different walks of life and their socioeconomic background, where they were, where they're from, what part of the country they live in, what's available in their area, where, there might be the perfect concept for me in Knoxville, but because I live in DFW, that concept's not available. So how do I then adapt and still reach my goals and hit my, achieve the vision that I'm setting out for myself? And when I walk back to our experience, we didn't have a consultant. We didn't have somebody who could tell us, hey, this is a great concept. I love where you're at right now. Maybe don't start with 4 territories that are, maybe not with a 500-mile radius.
Correct.
That might be a bad idea. You sign this franchise agreement, they're not going to let you just shut the territory down without defaulting on your entire business. And we're in a situation now where we've flipped, we've bought some territories, we've sold some territories, but the initial territory that my dad purchased is down in Waco, which is 200 miles away. And the way that my business has grown, it would be better for me to just cut it and focus on what I have up here as I build and stack other brands and integrate things vertically. But I can't. You signed a 10-year agreement. You have to sell it. Or if you try to shut it down, you literally default on your whole concept. And so the idea of having a consultant walk you through, where does the training come from? And I want to get into specific brands, and I want to hit you with some scenarios of like, okay, a person from this background might be good with this, and maybe hit us with maybe a couple specific scenarios. But before we get there, where does the consultant find the knowledge, find the wisdom to be able to guide so many people from so many different experiences?
Well, I think it starts with learning a little bit about the individual that's looking for the business and learning about what their skill set is. So once you figure out what their expertise is, whether it's from previous jobs, schooling, the way they were brought up, what just comes natural to them. Some things just come very natural to people. They're outgoing. They're able to sell. That's what they enjoy doing. They enjoy talking to people. They enjoy selling. So that's when we look at certain franchises that might be a little more conducive for them. And then when we find someone that, hey, I don't like speaking to a lot of people. I don't enjoy talking to a lot of people. I'm not a networker. I don't like sales. Then we got to look for something that's a little more operational driven, where they can build that thing through operations and through marketing and really being behind the scenes, but still growing their business at the same time. So they're a little more thoughtful with operations and, get involved with the marketing aspect. So you really have to understand the individual that you're looking to place that franchise or business with, because they have to have some kind of a skill set that matches up with that. And I think you talk to a lot of these people. I mean, I talk to people in the financial world. They've been a financial advisor for the last 20 years, and now they want to buy a home service franchise, service brand franchise. And I'm like, how does this, how do you go from working in a suit for 20 years to now want to, you want to do something, paint homes,
Paint some
and
houses, yeah.
yeah. And what you do get from them, which is pretty cool, is, hey, you know what? I actually enjoy painting houses on my free time and on the weekends, because it releases me from all the stress that I deal with sitting in a cubicle for 5 days a week. And I enjoy painting and I enjoy working with my hands and everything. So it's not always that connection that you think. That connection, you think, oh, wow, he's in a cubicle for 40, 50 hours a week, but he wants to buy a painting franchise, or he wants to buy an insulation franchise. I can tell you right now, I just sold three spray foam insulation franchises in the last 9 months, and it was all to couples, husbands and wives. So husbands and wives can work well together when it comes to something like that. They don't need to know anything about spray foam insulation. There's nothing they need to know about that. They need to know, can they manage a small team? Are they good with financials? Do they understand operations? Can they hold themselves accountable and be consistent on a daily basis and follow systems and processes? And when you find a couple, a husband and wife, that one does something a little better than the other, where the wife, hey, I want to work in the office. I want to handle all the phone calls. I want to handle the scheduling. I want to handle the marketing. And the husband says, I want to be in the field with the guys. I want to spend time in the field with the guys and get them up and running, and, make sure the trucks and the equipment is up and running. Now you put the two of them together, you're like, you guys are going to be rock stars. You guys are going to crush it. And I find, the husbands and wives, I find them franchises all day long, because their two skill sets brought together, it just makes an amazing team where they could do this together and they could grow this thing together. But then again, I work with a lot of single people too. The husband wants to keep his full-time job, and he wants to stay with his full-time job, and the wife is home raising the kids, and now she wants to start a franchise, and she's like, what can I get into? and I'll sell spray foam insulation to her. And you know how we get around that is she's going to handle the office. She's going to handle all the incoming calls. She's going to handle the scheduling. And the husband on his, on his free time around his full-time job, he'll check in on the guys, make sure the equipment's up and running. But more important, they're going to hire a general manager to run this in the field, or a lead, some kind of a lead, or a supervisor that's going to run it. And they still have everything covered. So the husband keeps his full time job. The income's still coming in, right? Still paying the bills. The wife is able to start this business, from home, because she's getting the kids off on the bus. So she gets the kids off on the bus, and now she can build this business. And the husband, on his downtime, which he might not have a lot of downtime, but maybe in the evening he could check on the trucks, check on the equipment, make sure the guys are good. On mornings that he doesn't have to be in the office that early, he could check in on the guys. And then on weekends, Saturday and Sunday, maybe he's off. Again, he could build the business a little on a Saturday, for half a day, three-quarters of a day, and that works well too. So there's so many opportunities here. This is what I always tell people: don't just quit your full-time job, because you need that income to pay your bills. You could start a side hustle or start a franchise, but make sure you have somebody that's going to be dedicated to this thing and is going to get it up and running. So there's a lot of options out there. There's so many options. The one thing I would tell you is, don't both of you keep your full-time job and work 50, 60 hours a week with full-time job
Somebody's got to get in it.
and try to start a business at the same time, because that's probably not going to work. So, I don't know if I've answered your question. I probably did, but there's so many ways that you can start this based on your situation. There's no, everything fits one way. I mean, there's so many ways that this can work. You just have to see what works best for your family and how much time you're willing to give up. Because at the end of the day, we're all looking, we got to give up time to do something. We got to sacrifice that time to do something else. And no matter what we get into, the one thing we never think about is, how much time is this going to take for me to do, whether it's a hobby, whether it's being on a podcast, or whether it's starting a business. How much time is this going to take out of my week, my day, and can I afford to give up that time?
There's a lot there. So the initial question was, what does the franchise consultant need to be able to direct individuals that come from such a wide variety of, the pool of people who come in as franchisees are so spread. And you answered it beautifully by explaining essentially how you would walk somebody through the process. And I think for the listener, it's like, wow, okay, this individual has a wealth of knowledge because they've lived through so much of this experience, but you also have the ability to see it from a much bigger picture. And then just listening to you talk, there's a lot of concepts. I mean, in the E-Myth, he talks about the two brothers that start the widget company, and he puts us through different scenarios where the first scenario is they just kind of overlap each other. If one person sees the other person doing something, and the first brother will go do something else, but there's no clear roles. And so when they try to scale, they end up fumbling over each other and the business shuts down. Where in the second scenario, it's like, okay, you're good at this, I'm good at that. This might be marketing and finances, and one person interfacing with the customers and answering the phones. And because there's a defined balance from the beginning, they can be successful. And it almost sounds like it doesn't necessarily matter what the industry is. I mean, did I hear that right from you?
I think you're pretty much spot on. The only thing I would tell you is, again, you always want to break down the numbers and the financials of these industries that you're getting into. But I believe, yes, a successful team that has clear, defined roles, like you're saying, if they have clear, defined roles, I think they can make anything work. What the financial goals you're looking to get out of that is a different story. Hey, are you content making 75,000 a year running a business, or are you content? Or hey, I'm looking to replace my income. I'm looking to replace my salaries. I want to make 250,000 a year. What can we do as a team, a husband and wife, to build that franchise into us being able to make 250,000 a year. So what we'll do is, I like to reverse engineer everything. That's probably my favorite saying is,
I
let's
love it.
reverse
Let's go.
engineer. Okay, to get to 250,000, you need to do 1.3 million a year, and I'm just making up numbers, just throwing numbers out there. You need to do 1.3 million a year in gross revenue after your payroll and your cost of goods and all your other expenses. You're going to bring home 250,000. We can get you there. We can get you to 1.2 million, but this is what it's going to take. You're going to need to own this amount of territories. You're going to have to build it like this, and this is the way we have to structure it on how to build this thing over the next 2 or 3 years. And then both of you can, leave your 9 to 5 job and be able to support yourselves. Is it going to happen in 6 months? No. Is it going to happen in a year? Probably not. It might not even happen in a year and a half or 2 years. It might take 3 years. But these are realistic goals that we can get you to, as long as you're willing to put the work in.
Oh, it's good. I love that reverse engineer. I need to use it in my vocabulary much more. So you'll be hearing it in this podcast. I appreciate you for that. But yeah, that's something that I totally have had to do in my life. It was a huge goal of mine to. I need to be making six figures. You know, I've been doing this for a long time, and if I'm looking at what my needs are, and my wife is at home with the three kids, and so our family has been completely on my income, 95% since we started this thing. And as you and anybody listening who's been through starting a franchise or any business, those first years are lean, man. And it's tough. So it wasn't that we both quit our jobs, but I mean, essentially we did. We started having kids, and our whole strategy on how we were going to build out the business had to change when that first baby, my man, when he came out, everything changed 100%. But now, as we start to strategize and look at how we can scale and be empire builders, as you mentioned before, it's like, okay, I'm making X amount from my business right now. It's not six figures, and that's where I need to go. Ideally, but I also need to replace myself because this is grinding me down, and I'm realizing that I can't be the visionary and the integrator and the and lead tech and operations manager and sales and marketing. I can't do all of it at the same time. So I need to start putting this out. Okay, so what if I start putting it out? Well, I can't pay myself more if I'm replacing myself in other areas. I'm actually going to have to invest in my people. And okay, so walking through that, I'm going to have to take less money for a little bit. But in doing that, I've been able to see my business actually get much more healthy. And through just God's grace, man, we're able to put together a cash injection for another business and integrate it vertically to where each business now can support my salary, where a business is going to be actually, each business is going to pay me less than what I was making before. But collectively, I can actually be much more focused on what I'm good at in my organization, and the business can support itself better. And so we've taken that reverse engineering concept to kind of just breaking it down, and it's at a much smaller level than maybe somebody at your scale might be able to do. After hearing that, how would you add or maybe bring value to somebody listening, and maybe they're in their full-time job now, or maybe they're kind of working with a spouse on, okay, somebody's going to quit. Is there anything else that you would add?
I think you have to have that desire and want to start a side hustle, a franchise, a business. You have to, it's something that you talk about, whether it's
Is
between.
starting a franchise different than having a side hustle? Can it be seen the same, or are those two very different things?
It could be seen the same, because if you start a side hustle, it could be as small as, hey, I'm doing Grubhub and Uber Eats on the side for a side hustle, and I'm making some extra money. Starting a franchise, you could be starting a smaller one, has a smaller investment. It doesn't, there's investment levels of 75,000, 100,000, all the way up to $2-3 million investments. But if
Right.
you want to start a side hustle, It could be something as little as this is something on the weekends that I want to do, where a franchise potentially is probably going to be a little more work and a little more involved. It might not be the weekend, it might be 4 or 5 days out of the week, but it is essentially could be a side hustle. And what's great about it is if you follow the systems and processes, that little side hustle might eventually replace your income, and it allows you the freedom that you've always wanted to do the things that you enjoy. I mean, you might enjoy playing tennis or pickleball or taking up art
I
classes.
love me
And
some pickleball,
yeah,
man. I love
exactly.
me some pickleball.
So art classes or whatever people are into, fishing. I mean, a lot of people love to fish, and a lot of people, these are things that you can do now if you get that side hustle, which is either a side hustle or franchise, up to the numbers that you're looking to do, and say, hey, you know what? I don't have to work anymore. I could just have a business that can sustain itself, and I have that time now to do these other things. So I think it could be a side hustle. It could be started as a side hustle, and a lot of people are not. They're okay with building it slowly. It doesn't have to be built extremely fast to get to the numbers that we think that they want. It could be a slow grow. Hey, I'm looking to retire in 5 or 6 years. Okay, let's start building
So I
something now.
like that. Let me ask you something specifically on that. So like for this second brand, we are going through SBA for financing. Just closed on that yesterday, by the way. That was
Congratulations, man.
Appreciate that. That was a big
Congrats.
deal, man.
That's
I've never
awesome.
felt more insecure about myself as an entrepreneur than I have going through the SBA process. That was tough. Holy cow.
Yep,
Um,
I've gone through it. It's not
okay.
easy.
And yeah, I mean, golly, I thought they were just giving it away. Turns out they don't just give it away.
No, they do not.
Um, yeah. So there almost seems to be like almost a rush to like, okay, I got to build this thing fast because I got to pay this loan back. But you know, I, maybe I don't need to be in such a, especially if it is more of a secondary. Not saying this for me, but maybe for somebody who, maybe this was they can acknowledge in the beginning that it's more of a side hustle. SBA repayment, that's a few $1,000s a month for the next 10 years, right?
Sure.
It's a 10-year note. So, if you're paying your expenses, you're paying that SBA loan back, you might be able to kind of sit on this thing and build it the right way. You said in our last episode, you talked about marketing, and that was an eye opener for me because, we sit here and why are we not scaling as fast as other people? Well, other people are maybe putting in more marketing dollars and reinvesting because they don't need that full financial support from the business to buy bread.
Yeah, I think a lot of these businesses they want to get to fast results as quick as possible, and they don't understand that, to your point, the marketing, how important it is from the beginning of building the business all the way through. But the biggest reason is why a lot of franchises and businesses fail is because they're undercapitalized. They don't have the money to put into marketing, and they don't understand
Mm.
what the marketing, you might be spending 20% of your gross revenue on marketing in the beginning. You could be up to 20. You are just pouring money into marketing in the beginning to get your name out there, to brand awareness. You got to get that brand awareness and lead generation. There's two ways to market: brand awareness, lead generation. If you don't have both, you're not going to scale as fast as you think you're going to. So you might need 20 to 25% of your gross revenue for marketing dollars to get going. And what does businesses do? I barely have enough to open and buy the franchise. I barely have enough to pay a couple of guys to run the franchise and be in the franchise and be those technicians or those customer service reps. And what they do is they go, well, I have to save money somewhere. I'm going to do it with marketing. And that is like the worst mistake they can make because they're not going to get to the goals that they want to get to. So, you want to anticipate that whatever the franchisor tells you need to spend on marketing, you better have in your mind double that. So if they say, well, we want you to spend $2,000 a year on marketing, and I'm thinking $2,000 a year, how's that going to work? Like $2,000 a year, it
That's
sounds
not gonna cut
that
it.
is it's not a lot of money. So I
You're
would say
not getting any hits on Google for $2,000 a year. I'll tell you
exactly.
that.
So I would say, don't underestimate the marketing fees. I would tell you that, hey, I'm going in, I want to spend 10,000 in my first year on marketing. And even that might be light, but at least you have a bigger goal than what the franchisor is telling you. And, that's something we take a lot of pride in. I have a marketing team that handles that. And the one thing I haven't told you, and this is something I wanted to tell you, is that anyone that is interested in buying a franchise, whether they reach out to you or reach out to me, we will actually help them and give them almost $5,000 worth of credit towards marketing and help them get up and running in marketing. So if they reach out to
There we
you or me
go.
and want to learn about any franchise that's out there, uh, I represent over 400 brands. We will actually give them a credit of $5,000 to promote that business throughout the year. So I have a team in
That's
place.
huge.
Yeah, it's huge. So we're going to give them a nice rebate if they come through us on these brands, and we're going to get more into brands. Maybe not this episode, but we'll get into the next episode on Friday. That once we start talking about this, they reach out to both of us. We're going to help them with marketing. So not only the franchisor is going to help them with marketing, we're going to give them a lot of ideas, suggestions, creative ideas, and we're going to actually put our money where our mouth is. We're going to help them with marketing for, give them a $5,000 credit towards marketing. And that's because I believe that if you pick the right franchise and you actually do your due diligence and find that right franchise that's going to fit you and your family, you're going to be very successful. And then on top of that is a nice $5,000, marketing credit
Oh,
that
you
we're going to
can't
offer.
beat that, man. You
It's,
can't beat that. No, it's really cool. I was yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because I do want to talk to you and we'll go into more brands in future episodes and get specific and talk about different
sure.
industries. And I'm new to this side of the game. Seeing people and talking to folks about my experience and what's available out there. I was on a coaching call the other day and gentleman, my man Kevin he's in real estate and been an agent for a while and wants to start building something that can be passive and has a goal for 10 years. I want to have some passive income that can support my family, that whatever I do for work is extra and it's because I want to do that. And for him, he used to clean his dad's pool back in the day, and so he knows how to do it, and it's something that he can pick it up pretty quickly. And just talking to him, and he hit me up and we were going through like, okay, here's how it was for me when I first got started, and bringing up the idea of a franchise. That's maybe a little bit more of an investment than he's willing to put up right now. He's lean, he's got kids, he's my age or maybe older,
Sure.
and so he's thinking about bootstrapping it a little bit. So in talking to people like that, maybe it's not the right time, but how should they set their mindset towards, okay, if I can get this thing going, can a franchise accelerate my growth if I've already started something bootstrapped on my own?
So I have somebody in the same situation as it sounds like your buddy, your friend. My actual general manager, that's one of my GMs of one of my businesses. His brother is looking to get into franchising. He has two small children. He just had, I think he's got a 2 year old and he's got one on the way right now. So he's gonna have two small children, and he wants to buy into a franchise. And we've had discussions at length about what he should get into, what's going to work, what's not going to work, and he's not stuck on the capital as much, the investment. I think he's more concerned about the time with the two small kids right now, and he
Yeah,
is
I feel
ready to.
that.
Yeah, he's ready to pull the trigger. He is dying to start his first franchise. He is going to keep his full time job, uh, and he's going to build it on the side. And his wife is also going to help build it with him. So we've gone. We've talked for probably about 18 months now. On and off, and he's like, listen, I really want to get into franchising. Just right now is probably not the right time because I have another one on the way, and we're gonna have two kids soon, and I need a passive investment that's going to work because I don't know how much time I could spend on this business. So I told you earlier we have 3 or 4 brands that are like 100% passive, and he's looking to get into one of them because then he doesn't have to put a lot of time into it. He doesn't have the time right now. So we're looking at one of those passive investment franchises for him, and I think he's either going to go with that or he's going to wait probably another year or so in order to build that first franchise. And we have to do what's best for him and what's going to fit, his family, because the worst thing you could do is set somebody up for failure. You want everyone to be successful. My goal is that I want everyone that buys into a franchise or open up a business, they need to be successful. I mean, I will help them. I answer calls, I answer text messages to this day and try to help people as much as I can. But I don't think anything ever replaces hard work and being involved in your business. There's nothing that will ever replace that. I mean, the more you're involved, the more you can build your business. I like that you brought up earlier about Rocket Fuel, the visionary and the integrator. Uh,
Yep.
that's probably one of the best books out there too. You need the visionary and you need the integrator. And if you have the two of them, you're probably going to be pretty successful. And if you're the visionary, your GM, your general manager, or your office manager, or your fitness manager, or whoever that might
Somebody,
be, they need to be the integrator. And if you have an
no doubt.
integrator and you have a really strong integrator, you're going to be very successful.
So that goes into building out, building out any business, and it's just you hear the phrase solopreneur, and you like, break that down and distinguish, somebody who's self-employed, and you compare that to somebody who's an entrepreneur, and it almost that's kind of the key difference is you can be a solopreneur and be in the cash flow quadrant. Robert Kiyosaki talks about the 4 ways that you can make money, and the S is the self-employed. But in order to become an actual owner and a business owner or an investor in that category, you cannot do that by yourself. Like you really need to have somebody. So if you wanted to come and and purchase a franchise, but you were going to do that thing, full time, you're making money based on your effort. And there's a clear difference between being that solopreneur, that self-employed individual, and then being that entrepreneur. Even if it's one person, that key role and know, okay, one of us is a visionary and one of us is the integrator. Or maybe both of y'all are integrators and it's like, okay, maybe we need to go find a visionary. Or both of us are visionaries. We better go find somebody who's an integrator because we're going to struggle with all things if we don't.
Yeah, you bring up a good point. I think solopreneurs, when you talk about solopreneurs, that makes up about 75, 80% of the businesses out there right now, uh, which is
Wow.
which is extremely scary. And then you wonder why they're not successful. So solopreneurs make up a huge percentage of the businesses that you know they think that listen, I have somebody in my family that's a solopreneur. It's going to be hard for him to reach those goals as a solopreneur because you can't do it all yourself and you're not going to scale, you're not going to grow. I think if you don't have employees and you don't have a team, you're never going to grow. So you have to make sure you pick the right industry, the right business, that you can put a team in place pretty quickly to remove yourself. But you're right. I mean, you have the self-employed and you have the business owner, and until you're a business owner, you're not going to be able to make money and be able to invest it
Level
because
up,
you have
get out
to
of the
you have to earn money, and then you can take that money and invest it pretty quickly to create passive income. So if you don't have earned income first, you got to have earned income. I don't care if you work 3 jobs to get earned income. Now you can take that earned income and put it into a franchise or into some other kind of vehicle to have passive income. And then now you could start investing. So there's a lot of stages when it comes to, but it always starts with earned income. I mean, um,
yeah.
there's
You got to start. You got to start. You got to start somewhere.
no get rich quick schemes out there, and
Yeah.
all those get rich schemes stay away from because that's exactly what they are. They're a scheme, and
It just
It's hard
it
work.
doesn't work that way. Yeah, that's probably one of the things I like the most actually about the book Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki is that he talks about the ability to make money from all four quadrants at the same time. I can be an E, an employee. I could be an S, a self-employed. Maybe I got a hustle. Maybe I got something that I'm building out. Maybe it's a passion project like a podcast that I'm not getting paid for this, but one day I will. This is I have to put in the work to build this thing.
Correct.
I don't have people to do the editing. I schedule it all. I edit it all. This is me and doing my side hustle in this podcast. Then I have my business where I'm in the B category where I'm actively involved and invested into this business. But the last one, the I category, and that's what I love the most about franchising. And that's where in the next 3 years, it's a huge goal of mine. And for the sake of our business, to have franchises that are investments to where, okay, we took money or we brought money together and then we brought in some operators and now we're able to do these big deals and in the DFW area, but also, it could be anywhere. But
Correct.
being in that I category, man, and that to me at least, maybe not to everybody, seems to be the ultimate goal. I mean, that's if I'm investing, I need these soldiers to be working for me.
I can't agree anymore with you. It's you want to get into that investment quadrant. Once you're in that investment quadrant, uh, then that's when that's when you've made it and you're pretty successful and you're able to invest a lot into different, whether it's franchises, other things that are going to continue to create passive income for you. And there's a lot of franchises that can do it. It's not going to happen overnight. We have a few passive brands, but semi-absentee is a very big. People love the semi-absentee brands where, hey, you know what? I don't want to spend 50 hours a week on my business, but what do you have for me that I could dedicate 20 to 25 hours to? And that's when I find the right brand for them that fits that. We match that up with their skill set. Here's your skill set. Here's the amount of money that you could put into this thing. You can invest. What's the capital you could put in? And then what are you looking to get out of it? And once you figure that out, it's pretty easy. You can identify what fits them. But the goal is for everyone to get into that I bucket. I mean, we all want to get into the investment box because that's when it gets fun. That's when things start to get fun.
Yeah, no doubt.
And then you can really sit back and enjoy life a little.
Yeah. Oh man, that's the dream. Well, hey man, I'm dying to know. I mean, you got any brands you wanna give a shout out to today, or do you want to wait until next time before we start hitting into that?
I think we're going to wait to next time, and we're going to talk
All
about.
right.
We're going to break down. This is what we're going to do. We're going to break down three brands.
Okay. Yeah, you tell me, man, so we can be ready to rock. I want to have
Yeah,
some structure to this, man.
yeah.
Let's go.
So what we're going to do is we're going to bring three brands to the table. We're going to
Okay.
break them down where they fit as far as the capital, how much capital it takes to get into this, how much time, how many hours you should dedicate to this. Can you scale this with a team? And does the financials work? So we want to make sure that we hit all those buckets. That this is a brand that is just soaring right now, and it's just taken over. The numbers work, the hours work. I can put a team in place, and we can blow this thing up, and we can turn this into an investor model, hopefully.
Oh man, I love this. So you're saying that we're
I'm
gonna look
excited,
at
man.
three different brands.
Three
We're
different
gonna
brands.
break down
We're gonna break them
cap
down.
capital investment, the
Yep.
time investment you're gonna have to put into it, the scalability of the brand, and do the financials actually work with what our goals are, or just kind of
Right.
in general, like
Well,
can you actually make money on this
in
thing?
general, we can talk a little bit about numbers. We never want to get
Nice, let's
too.
go.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome, man. So I think what we'll do is, every Friday we'll do Franchise Friday. We're gonna release these three brands, and like if you guys are interested, you're going to reach out to Matt or myself, and what we're going to do is we're going to get you going and get you matched up with the franchise development team, and we're going to put our money where our mouth is. We're going to give a $5,000 credit for marketing that my team is going to help you with the marketing for 1 year and get you up and running. So we're going to help you with a $5,000 rebate, a credit towards marketing for that brand. That's what we're going to do.
Let's go.
I'm excited.
All right, man. Man, I'm excited. This was great. Thank you so much. Thank you for everybody out there listening. Stay humble, stay hungry, stay streetwise. Peace.